Conservationists, education, community engagement, and other issues. Just like we did previously, I'd like to give 1 minute to each one of the panelists to introduce themselves.
My name is Alexandra. I'm a jewelry designer. On one end, I feel very much at home with everybody here on stage and the audience. I think we share a lot in common. And on the other hand, I know that some people might ask themselves, what does a jewelry designer have to do with all that? So if it's okay, I would like to start with just a short video, because I think it will help me encapsulate in a short time what I do, so I can move on into your questions and explain better when I'm here.
Okay, we'll take the others and then we'll come to the video.
Perfect.
Please, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Hi everyone. I'm Fleurie LeClercq. I'm a children's book author. The reason why I started writing books for children was because I wanted to find myself. I wanted to find some books where I could identify myself. So the first story I wrote was Snowflower and the Panther. And the reason why I wrote Snowflower and the Panther because I was born in Cameroon and raised in Cameroon until I was 10 years old, and I moved to France. So the reason why I wanted to start creating story for our children in Africa and start introducing animals of Africa where children can read the story and feel like they also belong. I wanted to create the fairy tale side that we don't always find in Africa. So I started with Snowflower and the Panther, and I continue with African Animal ABC, in which I kind of explain all the different habitats of the different animals I picked. Why? Because I think it's important to introduce in our African culture all the different values that we have in Africa that are so fundamental, and that our children can recognize themselves. And in the same way, we can also impact other children from the world, and they can see the beauty of Africa, and not only a side of Africa that sometimes is more about poverty or famine. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. For me, 10 years ago, when I realized that social media was growing in Nigeria, where I come from, and people were using to talk about politics a lot in election, and I thought, if I could change my name to Esther Climate on Twitter and Facebook, and get engaged in this conversation, who will pause to ask, why am I called Esther Climate? And then I can arrest their attention. So I started that in 2009, and I would attempt to be alive now because climate change is one of the biggest issues now. In terms of wildlife conservation, I was privileged to work with the Nigerian government in 2015, and I happened to work with the then Minister of Environment, Mohammed, and my job there was to mobilize young people for climate action. And one of the key ways of talking about the wildlife in national parks. So we started a campaign called Wildlife NG, with the then head of wildlife who started passed away last year and was honored by scientists for her work. So for me, using communication, social media to mobilize in a continent that's full of young people is a great resource that we can do now. And now we're seeing that conversation grow now with wildlife in terms of for Africans, not just for our colleagues that come all the way from the Western country to consume this resources, but also for us young people, because this is 2020. We love to go to safaris, not to kill the animal, but to enjoy it, and also to, of course, to take pictures on Instagram and Facebook as well. So for me, that's my background is using communication to empower young people, not just for climate change, but also for conservation of our resources as well.
Thank you. And Alexandra, do you want to come back? Now, we have the issue of your profiles that you just mentioned. How do you address the issue of the challenges facing the conservation in terms of seeking solutions? Now we're looking for options. When you were working on climate change, what were the biggest challenges that you were confronted with?
Well, it was the awareness of the issue and the problem of knowing. For instance, we have young people studying wildlife in university, but they've never been to a wildlife conservation, for instance. And we have to change that, and I'm happy that we realized that young people can also contribute to do that. And one way of doing that is to reach out to our partners, invite these young people to volunteer for them, because they have this academic background, they also need the field background to be able to be the leaders of the wildlife department in the future. So I think for me that's one. And these young people now we have now are very passionate. So we can say that they're lazy. We're very passionate. They know this is their time, this is their future, this is their resources. They want to do. So they're willing to do that. They just need the opportunity to do that. I think for me that's also one sort of solution to do that. And also to government to open up communication channels for them to engage. We talked about community engagement. Young people can be that channel to engage with the community, the private sector, and the people in terms of conservation. Using social media, using live stream, using proper participatory communication to do that. For me, that's one of the solutions. But it has to be deliberate. People need to do it, not talk about it. They need to really, really go on to do it. And I think that's why I'm really happy that back home in Nigeria, we're doing the same thing here in Nigeria as well. We're working with the US Embassy and the government of Nigeria to do that deliberately, making sure it happens, not just talking about it in the panel, but going to say, hi, come here, come join us, let's talk about this. Let's have that proper conversation because you are the highest population in the continent and we have to leave somehow. I think that intergenerational partnership that's deliberate is the right way to go.
Fleurie, LeClercq, the African Union has declared the diaspora as the sixth region of Africa. What are your perspectives on the role of the diaspora in this connection?
So I think for me, the thing I find difficult is it's important to start impacting the children from a very young age. When we spoke earlier, we started at age 18, and for me, I want to start when they're born with like younger children books to explain them and also to include into the curriculum in schools. When I was in Cameroon, I was raised until I was 10 years old. I was still learning in school by my ancestors from Gaul, les ancêtres Gaulois. So I think it's important to see what we have in our curriculum and start impacting our children about our fauna, our flora, the beauty of what we have in Africa. And those have to start from a very young age because that's how we're going to start creating the interest on them. And that's how we start to create the curiosity on them to learn about what surrounds them. So I think that the problem that we also have is there's a lot of difficulties. Like a lot of people in Africa, they don't have any job, they don't have. So now we're talking about wildlife conservation, and it is so important to start that conversation and to be able to be proactive. But it has to work together with the different side of the politics in Africa. And the problem that we have now is it's very difficult to ask to be people to be able to go and take care of animals, but when sometimes they can't even take care of themselves. And I think that's what is very important for our leaders to recognize that problem, which is fundamental, and to start helping the people, and the people can help themselves and help the surrounding. And it's essential because it has to be like a global vision, not only one side. Because it's really difficult to ask someone to kind of take part of some conservatory side when they don't even know how they can find a job or they don't even know how they can take care of their family.
I mean, if I can add to that, I think we also need to look at the issue of working in silos. When we talk about wildlife conservation, there is Ministry of Environment. We need Ministry of Education as well, like you said. If the two can come together, and I mean, curriculum is owned by the Ministry of Education or Environment. But they can come together to work in the sense that from primary school, the public schools, they have that from the onset, and they work together to do that, not working in silo and doing conservation and doing education. We have to work together to do that. I think that's one way we can move forward.
That's a good transition to the Q&A. Now, comments to the panel, please.
Do you see REDD Plus as part of the solution, and how do you value carbon, and what is the role of African governments in setting that value, if it is indeed to be part of the solution?
Well, from my experience working in government, you notice that the forest conservation, the forest estate are owned by government. That's big, that's very, very big. But either state government or federal government. So that's just two things. So we have to make sure that whatever policy that has, it has to have the community participating in that. For example, I was born and raised in Cross River, in Calabar, which has the biggest forest conservation, one of the biggest in Nigeria as well. The forest is owned by the government, state government. Federal government doesn't have the power to really engage, except in national reserves areas. So these are intricate things that we need to understand in terms of that. And I think that's why NGO play a big role. They have a power to engage both the local government, the state government, and the federal government to find this new way of preserving their own forest resources. And I think that's why bringing those people together, NGOs, international NGOs, local NGOs, to work with government, to advocate, to demand, to protect, because that's, we need them, they're the fourth estate. I think for me that's key. In terms of climate change, I also think that young people now have the power to lead their voices for the NGOs to demand that action is happening to address climate change, whether it's forest conservation or wildlife conservation as well. So Red Cross is a big thing, but you also need to sign up to the UN, so it's all of it, because I think for me all of them has to do with power of the NGOs to be able to engage and mobilize, because if you take that away from the community, you cannot have that conservation.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a follow-up question to the one just asked about conserving forests. You mentioned that states play a big role, and I just am wondering how successful they have been in incentivizing people to conserve forests, because given the enormous pressures now and in the future of population, of food, to supply that population, we've already heard how agriculture is encroaching all over the continent on protected, well, not necessarily protected areas, but on forested areas, on savanna, on other types of habitat. And Red Plus, of course, is meant to provide some incentives, but the payments under that scheme seem to pale by comparison to what the opportunity cost is of keeping the forest standing rather than cutting it and clearing it for growing food or growing crops for export or whatever. So I'm just wondering, if it has been successful, how has it been in Nigeria?
I'll try to answer the best of my knowledge. I think it has worked in some instances because you want to raise awareness of the need to preserve the forest.
Yeah, if you could just speak up, I understand that there's some challenges.
Oh, so sorry. I mean, for me, my experience is to raise awareness about the need to preserve forests and also to have participation of both communities and government as well. But the thing is, government alone cannot preserve the forest today, even NGOs, so it requires a lot of effort for including ICCDI effort as well, along with government, NGOs, and the community. And most important are the young people. They have to inherit this future, as you see it. But I have seen a challenge where involving young people has to be induced. It's not organic in Africa. It's not organic at all. I think we need to talk about that it needs to be an organic process. We don't need to beg for it. I have spent my life begging to be involved as a young person, all my life. So I've seen it. And when I see politicians on their own do that, it inspires. I think so for me, it's all inclusive. Government needs to do more, NGOs need to do more, young people need to do more. We all have to do more because I'm really more planet.
The subsistence, I know, subsistence farmers, one of the issues for forests is that there is a lot of illegal logging going on, and subsistence farmers that are needing to, following up from what you were just saying earlier, that are consistently sort of needing to grow the crops on agricultural. From what I understand, when these forests get taken down, the topsoil gets turned over and over again, and eventually becomes completely arid and crops can't grow on it. So this is feeding into the bigger issue of climate change and the issues that come from that, which are going to stem right through to the water source and food production for a growing population in Africa. What would be your advice to organizations that are trying to help local communities to benefit from other values other than growing crops and agriculture?
So, coming from a place of personal experience, going into a culture that was not necessarily mine, I have learned to ask permission to both learn about the culture as well as use the culture for different things, whether it was my craft or other means of sharing. I really think that the one thing that has been done wrong from where I see it, is that there is a division of us and them, West and the rest of the world, and coming into communities that are in need for whatever greater or smaller reason. You can take your example with agriculture. It can be peas, it can be poaching. There are many, many things, or forestry. There are many things that needs to be kind of reversed. And the way to reverse it is not necessarily to look at it as an entire system, not as a specific problem, but understanding why, and somebody mentioned it before, why they're doing what they're doing. Why do the people in the Amazon, for example, chose to continue burning their forest while they knew it affects the environment? They chose to build real estate around those areas. And so why do people in Bali, and again this is a good example, don't want to continue their parents' job of becoming a carver or being a priest or doing anything that is part of their tradition? There is a lot to do with how they see themselves. There's a lot to do with loss of identity. There's a lot to do with feeling that they are not comparable to what the West is considering to be successful. And so most of this young generation and the values of those societies are not being able to be applied. And I see my role with this kind of project, and I was actually asked a couple of weeks ago to come to Ethiopia to work with local communities. This is a really good example, but I'm thinking about it. Asked to come into local communities of jewelers and teach them jewelry making. And my response was, I can come and learn from them how they've been making jewelry, and what I can bring is perhaps showing them a way that they can become more relevant to the outside world, how to create infrastructure for their building, for their business, how to think about designing a collection, things that have to do with branding and all that. But I don't need to teach them how to make jewelry. They have been doing this for 2,000 years. They have a tradition, they have local materials. This is to be a way to look at it. And through this kind of project, for example, their identity can grow. Their connection to who they are can grow. They will feel enough, right? They feel they matter. And from that place, they can be sustainable. And my job is, I have an exit strategy. I don't need to stay there for as long as I am alive. I do feel that as an NGO or someone who comes to be a support, we all need to have an exit strategy. Our job is not to stay there forever. Our job is to train, to give the tools, and to allow the people who live in those lands and countries and to preserve and grow and develop their own identity rather than impose it on them. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, we need to recognize indigenous knowledge, whether it's agriculture or conservation, is always there. Africa did not just pop up today, we've been there for ages. So I think we need to recognize that, and that really helps. So when we go into a community to do a service, to provide, you need to recognize this knowledge exists and you talk to them and they tell you what they need. And then when you transfer that, there has to be a two-way things.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I totally agree with and totally agree. It's so important to also work with local people instead of trying to go find the resource somewhere else. We have so much resources in our own country, and it's important. Exactly, it's important that our leaders that encourage that by looking and finding the people who have all those knowledge and try to gather those information so we can relate those information to our young generation.
All right, thank you. We have time for one more.
What do you think is missing for you in your line of work, for youth in general, for our generation? What do you think is missing that the people in this room need to understand so that somebody here may be able to have that answer? That's number one. Number two, as young people in conservation, in social enterprise, trying to change the society, I heard a lot of you saying that we're always asking to be involved, to be included. And I hate this when I'm told, fight for your space, fight for your platform, fight for your rights. And whenever someone tells you that, that means they don't know how to empower you. So I want to ask, how does it feel to have these lack of opportunities and these silos? and how can we bridge those gaps?
So thank you for this question. They're so interesting. So for me, the challenges I've been facing with the countries in Africa is just I'm trying to send my books just for free to orphanage, to school in Africa that are looking for it, and it's so difficult because just the fact to send the product, they're stopped. They have to pay taxes on those things. And I'm like, oh, they're for free, they're for schools. So that's one of the things that if we have help, it will be like, okay, we have all these ideas, we have all these books, and we want to have them, we want them to reach Africa and to reach those children. So I sent another book to Ghana, for example, which is very organized, and I have some help, and I sent another book from California to Ghana. I sent backpacks and all kinds of different things that I create for children. And we need to have the chance to be able to send those things, even without asking for them to pay. We just want to be able to send the message, to start impacting those children with all the creative things that we can do.
Okay, so I will try with the question of what is missing. So my 10-year work, when I started, I felt kind of alone because 10 years we talked about climate so much in African young people these days. But I lived in a place where I saw, I lived in a place called Spring Road, all right? It's a spring, and I learned how to swim. And then, so democracy came back to Nigeria, and the parliamentarians took over the place and changed the name of the roads to Parliamentary Road. They just destroyed the spring. That's such reality. So I felt I used to learn. But as I grew up, I realized that people really care. So those people had to step forward. And then they gave us spaces to act, for example, Action 8 and the rest. They came out because they really care. So there are people who really care. I didn't see them then, but they came out. So I think if you're genuinely passionate, you need to just step up yourself, own it, and just step up and support. Because by stepping up, you're helping someone out there. I think that's one thing our politicians are a bit afraid of, to do a good thing. When you do good, it goes a long way when you do good. So I think that's what I like to say. Please, if you're doing good, please genuinely do good. Your conscience, if your kids will be proud. I mean, they can even Instagram your good, So that's, not being alone. This is a bit funny. I love Liverpool, so I never walk alone. So that's also my life. That's one of my life principles. And it really helped a lot, so I never really walk alone. So that's the thing. And I don't know, I think there's opportunities here. For me, the biggest opportunity we have is social media. I'm telling you, it's the biggest thing we have is social media at all. I mean, we can use that to do good so much that we do bad things. For example, now, myself and my peers are starting this hashtag called Stop Wildlife Crime NG, starting tomorrow. So we're using that to talk about how we can use, we saw the film, they took photos of the animal and they even took photos of selling it. So we can do the good thing with social media than the bad thing. I think for me that's it. Yeah.
I don't know if I will answer it in order, but if I miss something, remind me, okay? I will start by saying that the greatest advantage of our time is all the bad things that are happening. My tendency actually is to always see the half cup full. And I can choose, obviously, to be upset about a lot of things that I feel bringing all of us down. But if you try to look at the outcome of all the things that have been happening in the past 10, 15 years with climate, and politics, and poverty, and war, there's a lot of casualties that are so unfortunate. But when you talk about what sustainability is, the way the UN defined it is creating, sustaining what we have now and creating a better future for the next generation. So if we're looking at it in that way, if we have enough patience and an outlook to look 20 years from now, 50 years from now, when we are no longer here, but we wish to keep and preserve and develop and have our kids inherit something different, this is a time when change happened. It didn't happen before. It's like putting a frog in boiling water and slowly boiling. It doesn't feel like it's boiling and becoming food. that's almost how we went, but I think there's a big wake-up call. And I will take it to your last question, I think it was about filling the role in the journey. Actually, what pushed me in every step of the way in the past 3 years that I've been speaking for and in account of using your voice and your platform as an activist is the response of first my customers, who everyone I found wanted to do something good, they just didn't know how. And all of a sudden they get to buy a piece of jewelry that they can go into a room and share the promise of what, or the story, right, of what they stand up for, which is sustainable world, peace, preservation of cultures and the nature. And this is something that they might not have been able to share or evoke, but it becomes a piece of conversation. So they become ambassadors just by wearing a piece of jewelry, donating proceeds from sales to specific organizations that are benefiting to promote the same. So I don't feel alone. I think I predict that this show will hopefully be 5 times the size, if not more, next year, and in years to come it will grow, because we need to have a diversified conversation with different opinions and different outlooks and different cultures and different experiences, because the more we have that, the better chance we can create a better future.
Thank you. I think